I'm going to be doing another one of these videos where I just talk about the theory and explain them in the easiest way possible for those who have to learn about it. But for today's video, we're going to be looking at the narratology theory by Tseveton. Is that how you say it? But yeah, Todorov. Tseveton. Unique, interesting name. So, in a nutshell, this is essentially what his theory entails. So, every narrative begins with a state of equilibrium, and the equilibrium being like the state of normality in all media products, particularly films. And then there's always a disruption to that equilibrium. That's usually caused by like an event. It could be a villain, it could be an explosion, it could be losing a relative or anything like that. And then there's the recognition of that disruption by the protagonist or whatever. And then after that, there's an attempt to repair damage. So essentially, once the equilibrium has been damaged and once it's recognized, the protagonist will attempt to repair it, and conventionally that will lead to a successful repair or a successful restoration of that equilibrium, and that becomes a new equilibrium. So and that usually occurs like near the end of the film per se, or I don't know, the end of the set product. All narratives share a basic structure that involves the state of one equilibrium to another. Media products, particularly around the film industry, as I've already said, include some kind of equilibrium that is disrupted or changed. The first equilibrium is a state of normality until it is disrupted by a villain or an abnormal event that carries major change, such as losing a relative or the bad guy destroying a city, etc. So these are things that I discussed earlier, but this is just more of a diving deeper into it. So if you were to look at a film, for example, all films, not all of them, but the majority of films, it's a convention that there is a protagonist, a good guy, and his life becomes not as normal, or not normal anymore, because of an event that occurs, because of something that happens. That something is usually negative, conventionally, and then that it goes on to recognizing the negative change, trying to repair the negative change, and conventionally that will lead to a successful restoration, a successful repair of that negativity, thus leading to a new equilibrium. So a kind of return back to the normal lifestyle, or a lifestyle of goodness. The idea that the way in which narratives are resolved can have particular ideological significance. The fact that a bad guy disrupting an equilibrium is eventually defeated by the light or the good guy highlights the conventional state that equilibriums are resolved in. The ideological significance being good guy versus bad guy, so like a binary opposition, right? Side note: this is not the case 100% of the time in all media products, but it's still the majority. Hence why we refer to it as something conventional, because conventional means something that is, that's a regular occurrence. It's what we would typically expect as the audience. Now to the most important part, in my opinion. How can this theory be used in an essay? So, for example, what would Todorov say about the agenda of the question? So, the point of the question. So, let me give you an example. Explain the view that industry has become global. It's a very easy, typical question that I thought of at the top of my head, but I believe it can come up if you're looking at industry. Refer to Zoella. So, the sentence starter would be not for the very first sentence of the paragraph, but let's say you're on the theory section, right? So you've answered the question, so what, yeah, and then how, why. So for example, industry has become global because of digital convergence. This is the case because evolution in technology has given rise to the digital revolution, globalizing communication. For example, the internet has allowed that to happen. It's allowed social media to become more relevant in people's lives. It's also allowed for content creators to make their own content, have their own platforms, have their own brands. So YouTube, in Zoella's case. Uh, and then once you go onto the theory section, right? If we're looking at Todorov's theory and how that could be applied, it's not the best, kind of theory to apply to this kind of question, because we're looking at industry, and this is a media language theory. But however, you're not restricted to using just an industry theory. You can use any theory if you can find a way to, apply it in a successful way. So one sentence starter could be, after you've explained why digital convergence has made industry more global, you can say, Todorov may note that, blah, blah, blah. Or you can say, Todorov may argue that, yeah. Or you can say, someone like Todorov may point to the fact that. And here's the thing you guys need to notice. Don't say he will argue. Don't say he must argue or something like that. You can't assume what he's going to say because you haven't met him and you don't know what he will actually say. What you should do instead is say he may. So it's a possibility. He might, for example, say this in accordance with the question. So just to give you a quick summary, if it comes to this question, Todorov may note that ideological significance in Zoella is enhanced by the equilibrium in some of her, content being like blah blah. You just have to word it in a way that is relevant to the question. And then once you say like, I don't know, ideological significance is relevant to Zoella because of equilibrium in her content being disrupted from one state to another in some of her videos, this links to industry becoming global because it enhances or it has influence on the content, and the content itself is what reaches these global audiences. You just have to word it in a way that is relevant to the question. And the key idea is to refer to, if you're going to be answering a question like this, not like this, but any question really, but you're referring to this theory, it's equilibrium deciding the narrative. So Todorov may note that the equilibrium of Zoella's content decides the narrative. The narrative reaches the global audience. Therefore, industry has become global, blah, blah, blah. Ideological significance being the conventional methods in which equilibriums are eventually solved. So again, like I said earlier, equilibriums and her content, if we're going to be referring to this question. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You can answer these questions in any way you see fit, so long as you try and follow this kind of structure where you're not acting like you've met Todorov, or you're not acting like you've met Stuart Hall or George Gardner or these kind of people, because you haven't. And the examiner may take note of that and be like, hold on a second, this isn't true. It's better to just do it this way, where you say he might know or he may argue. And so that answers the question as to how this theory can be used in an essay. But quite frankly, it kind of answers the question as to how any theory could be used in an essay, because any theory that you use, it's better to use this sentence start or this starter. I'm sure there are other sentence starters out there, but in my opinion, this is the most safe one to use. And yeah, thanks for watching. This is like my second video using this approach. Again, courtesy of Alan the History Nerd. I've taken inspiration from how he formats his videos. If people like this, then who knows, I might make more videos explaining more theories in this way. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks, guys.